upon but interrupts.
Trying to get one in.
Okay.
When you look back at the events of the last 12 months, 18 months, do you have any regrets?
Well, I think if I look at strategically where WPP was going, and I've said this before, I think all the holding companies, all the ones that Ken looked at, are moving in the same direction. I think the only difference, and the other five may disagree, or the other six may disagree, the only difference is the speed of which you get to that destination. So if you just quickly go through them, Havas clearly, with the village concept, embraced the idea of horizontality, or whatever the next new word, integration. And they did it in a slightly different way, and in Ken's session I tried to say that I think it's an interesting model because it is very different. Advertainment, I think, is what Vincent Bolloré calls it. But it is a fully integrated model. If you then go to IPG, maybe not as pronounced, but pretty integrated. But McCann is a sort of almost a group on its own, but highly integrated. You go to Dentsu, I think one of the best positioned, if not the best positioned, around media, digital, and data. You go to Publicis, clear articulation of the strategy, clearly appealing to clients, as I said, when you look at Campbell's or you look at Marriott, they win that pitch on the simplicity of their offer. Big issue is whether they can deliver it, and whether, if you call everything by one brand name, the brand names you exclude, in their case Saatchi, Leo Burnett and BBH, suffer as a result. So the issue is, as you elevate one part of the organisation, is it counterbalanced by declines elsewhere? Omnicom, probably the least integrated, although they, as Ken pointed out, they did it with McDonald's, they did it to some extent with AT&T, but probably much more sort of autonomous and independent, but certainly moving in that direction. If you come back to your question about regrets, it probably, if I had a regret, that probably we didn't do more. And when I say more about what? Simplification of the verticals, more client-orientated work, more country management, and last but not least, the digital underpinnings to it. So I would say acceleration of that strategy, which I think by and large is pretty much what everybody is doing. As I say, it's not a question about where you're going. I think everybody wants to get to one firm. The question is the speed. And the breakage. If you make an omelette, you have to break some eggs. Especially how many eggs you have.
Lindsay Bennett, Mad News, from Australia, just over here, right in front of you. You're right. I was at an event earlier this week, and Sir John Hegarty said that he didn't believe that you would be leaving a legacy behind. With horizontality obviously being stamped out, do you agree? Do you agree with that, and do you have a response to that?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really agree or not really respond?
Not really a response. No. Yeah.
Okay, we've got just one more question now. So,
Michael Tone from Creative Pool. Martin, you seem to have set up S4 rather very quickly.
Yeah.
Was there plans in place before? What happened with WPP?
No. Everything's been done subsequently.
And if you're still at WPP, what would you have changed? What would you be doing now?
Well, I think in relation to Matthew's question, just carrying on implementing that strategy, which at the end of the day is very simple. It's simplifying the verticals, more focus on client and country, and more focus on the digital underpinning. And I guess the most difficult question is when you flip the switch. And when I say flip the switch, when do you flip from an organisation that is vertically organised, where the primacy is in the with the brand leaders, like the global brand leaders? When do you flip it to a client-led organisation and a country-led organisation? My view is in time that's inevitable that you move to a country-led organisation, given the changes, given the growth of local brands, the growth of millennial-driven, new media-driven brands. It's inevitable that you move to a country as primacy. But in most of the companies that we're talking about, in fact, I think Publicis may be slightly different, but in all the other companies, the global brand is the primary driver. And we haven't moved to a client-led organisation and a country-led organisation. And that's the most difficult thing is, in my view, is when you flip that switch. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
I find it amazing that people still call it an emerging market. Whatever S4 does, and whatever its first move was, it will be multinational. So the answer is those markets, from a geographical point of view, still to me are the future, in the sense that the next billion consumers are not going to come from the US and Western Europe. They're going to come from Asia, from Latin America, from the Middle East and Central Eastern Europe. So they will be front and center part of the agenda. The two areas are obviously technology and geography. Geography is, I think, easier to figure out. Technology, certainly for me, and I think for Ken as well, is a much more difficult area to figure out where the winners are going to be. But you mentioned specifically Brazil, and I think Brazil is one of those winners. So Brazil will be front and center part of what we will do.
It's Martin, Jim Waterson from The Guardian. Unlike yourself, this is my first trip to Cannes, and looking around, I'm seeing a large amount of money being spent by a load of firms with particularly unclear business models and no idea really how anyone's going to take on Facebook and Google with any conviction. Is this not just a last days of Rome event with everyone frittering away cash before the inevitable crash?
Sounds like, where are you from? The
Guardian.
Yeah, it sounds like a Guardian question. I think Ken has been here 3 times. When was the last time you were here? 16. So 16, and before that? 10 years. So, look, last year we were quite open about what we thought about spending. My own view is, I expressed it last year, that June in Cannes may not be, with all due respect to the people here and to the mayor and of Cannes, may not be the best place for our industry to be seen and heard, given the challenges that you referred to and the opportunities you referred to. And I know the organisers are continuously thinking about where is the best place to be, what is the best timing to be. And the industry is under a lot of challenges, and there are big opportunities, as I've tried to point out. It's not all doom and gloom, as my friend Ken is trying to paint us in. The glass is half full, it's not half empty. But I think the point is well made, and I think, I don't know about the fall of Rome, but I do think we have to examine how we do this. Attendances, I think, are down about 25%, a third this year. One person said to me that the creative attendance here is down even more sharply, and if that is true, that's even more regrettable. But you know, there is a place for awards with clients and with our people. Our clients always are very proud of their awards. Our people are very proud of our awards, and I think it's something that must be maintained. Whether this is the right place and the right time is another question. So I have some sympathy with the background to the question, and I think we could do it better. I think we could achieve the same pride, but in a different way.
It's John Reynolds. I'm a freelance journalist. Is S4 Capital, is that the only business you're looking to launch? And if not, what other areas are you looking at? And secondly, I think yesterday you said that you're tipping Mark Reed and Andrew Scott to get the job. Do you expect WPP to follow that through and actually those two to get the job?
I mean, I was asked for a view and I gave a view. And in relation to what we had always talked about if I got shot or hit by a bus, I can't tip anything, John. So S4 Capital, that will be my principal focus. S4 Capital doesn't have access to unlimited capital, but it has access to significant amounts of capital. And we'll see how it goes. It's early days, but that will be my prime focus.
So, can you indicate, I am Octavio, I come from Mexico, Mercados Sir. And you indicate is coming, sir, and many CEOs will retire. What will happen to the advertising industry? Who will lead all of these agencies?
Who will lead the holding companies?
The agencies.
So who's going to lead the holding companies? This is one for you.
This is your press conference.
Oh, come on, guys. For the first time in modesty all becomes you. No, there will be evolution. I mean, just to each of the holding companies. We've seen succession at Havas. We've seen succession at Publicis. We've seen succession of a kind at WPP. At Omnicom, actually, interestingly, John Wren is now chairman and CEO of Omnicom. The previous chairman, Bruce Crawford, has retired. He retired at the grand old age of 89, even eclipsing me. Michael Roth is, 70, 71 at IPG. There's succession, I'm sure, at IPG. So I think the answer to your question is there are plenty of people inside the existing agencies to take over the mantle, and probably plenty of people from other parts of the industry as well, and even outside the industry. So I wouldn't be, and the talents that they have will obviously be geographic talents. You're from Mexico. I mean, obviously, Asia plays a big role. The role of China and India are increasingly going to become more important. So people understand that. People understand technology. People understand clients and their needs. Those are, I think, the critical factors.
Can you really move the dial with a venture that's backed by millions in this industry? Do you not need more than that to have a big impact?
Well, Kate, I think we need obviously the more resources you have access to, the better. But we started WPP from a market cap of $1 million. Deriston had a market cap of $2 million, so that's double the size. We put in, 53 million sterling with non-binding commitments in relation to another 170 million euros. So I think that's a good base to start. The interesting thing about the fragmented part of the industry is that most of the players are not what I would call very large. And in relation to one of the previous questions, the private equity industry is a very big industry, raising about $500 billion a year. They leverage it up by 3, 4, 5 times. So you're talking about a lot of firepower in that industry too. And I think we will have access to what we need in the early part. That's the more important part, and then build on it. I wouldn't say yay or nay. I mean, there are plenty of people that you can partner with. Apart from private equity, there are other forces in the industry that are looking to expand their offer and diversify their approach. So I think there's a lot of complementarity. And I think it would be wrong just to us to focus narrowly on the resources that you've identified or that have been identified so far.
Daniel Ferry-Jones, I'm covering this for Australian readers. Can you tell me 3
All Australian readers?
All of them. Martin, can you tell us 3 new things that you've learned at Cannes this week?
I've been here since Thursday. I mean, the first thing I learned is never do an interview with Kenoletta. The second thing is never give a press conference. The third thing is, I think, my feeling is, when if you look around, it comes back to the Guardian question, if you look around where the investment is being made, is sort of it sort of demonstrates to me, and the biggest investment here is from the consulting companies. I think Accenture has spent something like $5 million here on their facilities. I don't know whether that's true or not. You can find out whether it's true or not. Duncan is saying no. No, nowhere near that. More or less than? Less. How much less? Quite a lot less. 1 million? Okay, fine. Okay, but less. Okay. But a significant.
And by the way, just to retract, the decline in delegates is nowhere near 25%. By the way,
what is it?
The decline in delegates is much closer to 10%.
And creative community is it same?
Significantly up.
Significantly up. Okay, so he's the CEO of Essential, and he knows what he's talking about. No, so I think the consulting companies is where you see boats on the quay, you see PwC being overlooked by Accenture. I mean, if Omnicom and WPP had two boats next to one another, one looking over the other, I think I would be a little bit worried about my investment in the boat. So it is. I think that's where the weight is at the moment, and I think that, with all due respect to Ken's book, I don't think he brought out enough that is where the challenge is, not on a head-to-head basis, but upstairs. I mean, in the senior reaches of the clients. I mean, they go into the clients and they say, you have a lot of technological challenges, you're spending a lot of money, can we help you reduce that spend, and our reward will be a percentage of what we save you. That is a pretty seductive message.